A very good morning to everybody who's joining here today for this session. So this is the first of the series of what we are doing is what we call as the inside out conversations. So my name is Charan, and I'm going to be the host for today's conversation with our wonderful guest today. So, before we get to the guest, I want to open up a little bit about what I do. I have an overall professional experience of over 17 plus years, and in the last 3 years, I have been working with a lot of C-suite people and executives in building their personal brand and executive presence in the public domain. So as I continue to work with all of these wonderful people, one of the conversation that I tend to keep seeing repeatedly with these senior level leadership people is it's all right, Charan. I understand how do we go about building our visibility. Is there a way where we can look at focusing on how we can doing things internally as well? So something that we could build on ourselves internally. So that's when I realized there is a need for the conversation to work and for the people to know about how to go about building their visibility on the outside and also going about building their presence within themselves on a personality development aspect of it. That's pretty much the reason why we started out this conversation is called as the inside out, and it is more now relevant than any time earlier in the history of digital presence. So that said, I would want to introduce my lovely guest here. Her name is Manju, and she is a mindset coach, and she has had more than 15 years of experience overall in her professional career, and she has worked across various industries, including aviation, software development, and founding her own consulting firm called Flip Your Story. So today we are going to have a conversation which is pretty much related to how are we going to find the difference between what is a teacher, what is a coach, what is a mentor, and what is a counselor. So we wanted to understand the difference between all these aspects of it. So welcome to our conversation today, Manju. Glad to have you here.
Hey, Charan, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
Wonderful. So, Manju, I want to start the conversation in the aspect of picking up from the title. So, when you looked at this title, what came across in your mind? I want to just find your mind share on that.
Okay. Usually, these are very overlaying professions, right? People tend to easily get confused between a coach and a mentor and a counselor and a teacher or a trainer, right? So I was very excited in one way because I thought it's going to be a conversation where we are going to bring in more clarity. Because a person who is going to take up services from somebody like this, they should be very clear what they want and which professional can help them. um, there's a slight difference between all the four, and I will tell you one by one. Say if you take teacher or a trainer, the person has knowledge. It is an acquired knowledge. Most often it is not something that they have experienced themselves. They're not really implemented it, but then they have gathered knowledge from somewhere and they are trying to cascade it, they're trying to explain it. Now how much and how far you're going to apply it and get benefit out of it, that's going to be a slight thing to debate about. And say if you talk about a mentor is a person who's already done partially a lot of things that he's clarifying to the person. But at the same time, when say let me take an example, say you are my mentor and I'm coming to you for your services. So you already have the exposure on what you're guiding me to, have personal experience, and you will also do half of the work for me. You're going to lead the way for me, so it's going to be like you work hand in hand in action as well. And a counselor comes in when you have to think out loud and probably speak more. For all of us, there comes a time where we need to speak more. Maybe we're going through something, and there's a lot of talking which is required to get the emotional overwhelm out of your body. So that is when you go to a counselor. But when you come to a coach, it's very very different. Coach is a person who shows the mirror to you, right? They're just making you see the parts of you that you're not seeing. So that way, the coach is not really complimenting and doing actions with you, but then they're pushing you to take actions yourself. So I think
So
it's just.
I have this. Sorry to interrupt you there. I couldn't hold back this question. Okay, your journey is having to work with a lot of senior professionals. Okay, so the question that I have in my mind is, I'm just going to take mentor and a coach. Do professionals at that level, do they really confuse about the roles? Do they have a confusion on these two roles, like who's a mentor, who's a coach, who am I supposed to ask for what, who do I need to approach for what? Is there a confusion that exists on this, or people are very clear?
That's a very interesting question. If you ask if the confusion exists, yes, it very much does. Because most often when they go to a coach or a mentor, because these are very new things for people as well. Not many people earlier, say 10, 20 years back, we had a mentor in the office, right? So they used to just guide people. Now world has changed so much. There are quite a few professionals who are giving some suggestions, advice, and helping them out from from an external point of view, not really in the organization, but then a person can go out and take help from another professional. So this is new in the last say 10, 20 years, at least in India, right? So people are a little confused. That is something that initially I also had the same thought. Probably people will have that clarity, but the more I have been in this industry trying to coach people, I have understood that I'll have to explain the basics of what's the difference between a mentor and a coach. Then when they have that clarity, it becomes easier.
Okay, so I have an interesting question here. Okay, so now I'm working in an organization and I report to a boss.
Mhm.
My boss gives me advice. Now, is he my coach?
No. Okay, this is one of the biggest misconceptions ever, that coaching is advising, right? Most often, when I started out coaching, and everybody used to say, like, hey, you're just going to advise, like, why do you charge? Then I tell them, no, I'm not advising. I'm not here to advise you. A coach's job is just to be there with you, hold space for you, and make you see the parts that you're not seeing. It's as clear as that. We step out of the house every day in the morning, and we just check ourselves in the mirror once to see if your hair is okay, if your dress is okay. But we do not really sit back, spend like an hour to see things, right? We just like, it's like in a jiffy, you just check yourself out and then and leave. But a coach looks at every aspect of your life and see what is weighing you down, and then understand why is it weighing you down and how is it affecting your life in general. Okay, it can be personal, it can be professional. So basically understanding what kind of emotional baggages you're carrying, how can we free you up. So there are two aspects of coaching. Sometimes it's a problem solving aspect of coaching, sometimes it is actually enhancing the performance of the person, right? For that, the coach looks at you in a very holistic perspectives, gives a lot of inquiry. They try to ask you a lot of questions to understand you in the first place and see what are your strengths and weaknesses, and then from there, overall analyze you, take you from point A to point B. That is coaching. Coaching is all about delivering results.
Okay, so if I could, based on what you told about all these different roles, if I could do a kind of a quick summary of my little understanding, can we say that a teacher is a role that helps us in transferring a particular skill from zero to one in some way, probably?
Mhm.
A mentor is somebody who provides their experience and helps us get better in our experience in our journeys in some way.
Right.
A counselor is probably a kind of a person who helps us deal with our life things in a more emotional angle of it, more so from a professional angle of it. And
Right.
a coach, if I could put a difference between all these three things and draw out a huge difference for a coach is more towards not focusing more about the past baggage as a only area, but more towards how do we go forward, a forward focusing aspect of unlocking yourself for what are you wanting to set yourself for the future. Could that be a differentiator in the way we put it out?
I think that was bang on. Initiation, the sowing the seed aspect comes from the teacher because they give you that idea, right? And from there, the mentor kind of handholds you. Say, if you want to take a person from say 0 to 100, initiation happens from the teacher, and then the mentor is there who's just leading the way. They're also taking the action, inspiring them. When does a coach and a counselor come into picture? When say till 70% of the performance, everything is easy, it's not that difficult, and 70 to 90 is also easy for elite performers, but going beyond 90 is where the challenge is, right? The last 10% is the most challenging, and that is where you actually need the coach. Above 70%, if you want to live up to your full potential, having a person whom you're reflecting with things and taking steady action towards what is going to be your goal, taking aligned actions and whatever is stopping you, right? For that is when counselors and coaches comes into picture. And the counselor, I would like to mention this point very clearly. When you go to counselors, they employ talk therapy. It's usually an emotional release and what is holding them up, and the more you talk, somehow you arrive at a bit of clarity, but then elevation of performance usually happens with the coach.
Wonderful. To be very honest, I wanted to lead this conversation to the next topic on which role to be utilized when, but I don't know. I didn't share my script with you. Okay. So, but you led me into the next part of it. So, I wanted to ask you which role leads to when, but you already sort of gave me a head start in talking about that 10% differentiation, right? So the question that I want to ask you, since you mentioned that moving the needle from that 90% to 100%, you talked about it is very difficult for an individual to do it by themselves. I
Yes.
want to understand from you, what are the stakes that are in what you call, what are the high level stakes that exist when somebody is moving from 90 to 100? What do they achieve when they do it, or what do they miss out if they are stuck at 90 without a support of a coach?
Okay. I personally feel people don't get stuck at 90, they get stuck at 70. That's what I have understood in the larger scheme of things. The reason being, most often we try to solve our problems ourselves, right? If you're looking at excellence, right, be it professional, personal, fitness, relationship, if you're looking at excellence, it is better that we have somebody from outside actually question you for certain things, right? Otherwise, it's very, very easy for us to think and be in an illusion that we are doing everything right. That's one of the primary reasons. If you see at the global level, if you see anybody who's like successful and super successful, they always have a coach. In the West, it is a very common thing for people to actually interact and see, hey, okay, this is the person that I'm getting coached or what I'm getting coached,
Okay.
right?
So
Um,
okay, yeah, yeah, please go ahead.
I would want to add one more thing. Most often, what happens when coaches come in forums like this, we keep speaking about coaching so much because we have taken it ourselves, so we know the benefits. So, somebody who's listening, for them, it comes across like, oh my God, they're selling coaching. No, that's not how it works. See, what happens is, even if you do not have a coach, will you not progress? No, you will. Obviously, you will. The question is how quickly. We all are human beings. We all tend to reflect on our learnings, reflect on our failures, reflect on our success, and do things appropriately in the coming months and years. But the question is, when we do it on our own, some simple important vital learnings, it takes many years for us to reflect and arrive at a conclusion that this is working, right? With the coach, the process is much more simpler and faster, because there's another person who's having a bird's eye view of your life, and then they are asking you the right question, kind of forcing you sometimes to see the parts that you're not seeing, right?
Okay. See, one of the important mental roadblocks that I see when I put myself in the shoes of executive leaders running large companies or holding huge responsibilities. See, the usual mindset of it is, it stems from a very early part of our what do you call, educational journey, because a person who is needing tuition are probably the people who are not really performing in their academics, so they need an extra help for them to
Mm,
cross over. So this
right.
sort of gets ingrained in our mind. So the more we go up in our experience, it is more about, if we go about asking for help for something in our professional space, so is it an admission of that we are incapable, or we are insufficient, or we are unqualified? So people have these kind of baggages that they carry from themselves over the past experiences that they've had in their lives. So how do we go about dealing with making them aware that this is not a kind of a shortcoming, but this is for setting for excellence rather than bridging for a gap?
And that's a very important and a brilliant question. For one reason, because what coaching actually focuses completely is the conditioning and challenge them. If you see the education scene in India, say somebody is really wanting to perform a sports. I'm going to give you a different example and explain this. Say an Indian parent always prioritizes education because they say that they see that that's a safety, right? I saw an interview of KL Rahul. In an interview, he was saying, my mother is still unhappy because I don't have a degree. So every time he sits and has a conversation, while he has even led the Indian team sometimes, but then still the parents thinks that security only comes through education, right? This is a very, very staunch belief. So there are certain things that we have ingrained in us. I think we'll have to reflect and let go of these beliefs, which is really not serving us. And there are so many people who go these days to training academies for excellence as well. And I would say coaching is not required for somebody who's in the bottom, not just to a person who's on the top. Everybody needs it. Coaching is reflection and facing your reality bang on. and how a profession is trying to do it. So
So since you touched upon the word called reflection, I want to pick it from there. So, what is the most important aspect of having a coach with us? Is it for direction, or is it for reflection, or you cannot say this or that?
yeah. Coaching primarily is for having aligned action. The purpose of the coaching, why it might be multifaceted and multi-layered, because every individual is different. Everybody's childhood has been different. How they perceive the world, their role is different. So it is going to be very different for every individual. But then the bottom line remains: we're taking the client from point A to point B, right? And our actions, our lives aligned towards the point B, so that we can hit point B as quickly as possible. So point B is not like the life's goal. The point B is the immediate milestone that we have, right? So if we reach this milestone faster, how can we move to the next milestone? So instead of we shooting in the stars and assuming that we will hit the milestone in a certain time, how can we expedite and ensure that we take aligned action throughout the day towards that? And whatever is blocking you from taking aligned actions, that's where the coach comes into picture and challenges you to see the parts that you are not seeing.
Okay, so let's say all of this is said and done. Okay, so I understand all of this. I understand the benefits of it. I understand the fantastic results that it would yield, so on and so forth. Okay, I want to get into the most important aspect of this. Okay, I don't want this. Okay, I don't want any of this. What are the risks of me not taking it and going solo on my own as a leader, as a leader of a big organization, or as a leader of an organization that is holding a very high responsibility? So what are the risks that I am probably overlooking, or probably having to deal with if I go solo?
You're slowing down on your growth, and you're not trying to bring ease and grace. See, if a person is constantly steadily growing, which means that there's mounting pressure, there's just so much happening. If you're going to do it all by yourself, nothing wrong in it. I would not say everybody mandatorily should have a coach. All that I'm saying is, when you have a coach, there's a lot of ease and grace in the process of transitioning into a bigger role and a better role much faster, right? So if somebody chooses to go all by themselves and they do not want to have a coach, the only thing is probably the learnings that is going to help you, the crucial learnings, will come to you a bit late, probably an year or two later. And the question is, if you really want to have it in, say, 2 to 3 months, then you'll have to take special efforts. If you have the time bandwidth, if you can study so much, if you can invest so much of energy and resources into doing that, you can probably do it in, say, like 7 8 months. But you will still never be able to come closer to having another person doing the work for you.
So let me ask you this. You mentioned about the professional aspects of the delays, the probable things that people will be missing out if they are going solo. I want to understand a little bit about, at the cost of something not happening in a professional space, not at the time that we really want it to happen. What kind of a toll this could probably take on them as an individual, from a emotional side of it, or from a personal side of it? Like, have you come across those kind of situations, or people have been able to deal with both of this independently?
You know what, Charan? I have been a person who has been like very open to learn. I come from this very curious student kind of an energy. So I somehow, when I started my company, I thought everybody would be like me. But there are quite a few people who surprised me. People usually came to me when they were on the brink of, not able to manage things. They were on the point of kind of giving up because there's just too much happening in their lives, right? Emotionally, when it comes to probably in relationships or even at work. So I see that most often we take help, especially in India, when we are not able to manage things. Which also kind of worries me as a coach, because I think we have to take responsibility of our own growth and see how you can reach excellence and do things accordingly, right? See, coaching also, it works when the person who is getting coached is open to being coached. Okay, you can be with the best of the coach in the world. Tony Robbins can be sitting in front of you, but if you're not open, nobody can help you, right? So you cannot coach a person who's not coachable. So it's a very interesting dynamic. But yeah, most often people who believe in coaching are the ones who have already seen like the side effects of not getting one.
Okay, so since you mentioned about even the best of the coaches not being able to solve a problem for somebody who's not able to open themselves up to get themselves solving that, right?
Right.
So there are these people who leaders, large organizations of high repute, etc. There is a tag of a self-made leader. Okay.
Hmm.
So I want to understand to what extent is a self-made leader, is it a norm or is it an exception? Like anybody can be a self-made leader, or only a few can be a self-made leader, but a lot of people need support, or how does this spread there? So I just want to understand that.
See, it purely depends on the person. I would say it boils down to the grit that the person has and the audacity with which they can take bold steps. That's what it boils down to end of the day, because the coach also pushes you towards that, right? If you can replace the coach and be that gritty, and if you can make sure that you do what you're supposed to do, because nobody from my experience had a lack of knowledge on what has to be done, because everybody knew what has to be done. Okay, the knowledge doesn't come from outside. The coach doesn't have to really say, hey, why don't you do it, why don't you do it? No, it doesn't work like that. Most often they know what they have to do, but then still they're not able to do it, right? So if a person can be gritty, and make things work for themselves, I think that's brilliant. I'm not saying coach is mandatory for everybody. I'm just saying coach makes the process easier for everybody,
So
right?
let me ask about another category of people. Okay, there are always high performers in organizations. Okay,
Right.
so as far as they are concerned, and as far as in a lot of ways the organization is concerned, they are really the gems of the organization, the
Right.
real high performers. Okay,
Right.
do you see, even though them being the eye of the organization, being the top rated people, being the high performers of the organization, do you see that those kind of people don't have these kind of issues in growing in their professional journeys, or is there a challenge that they too need some support to fix?
Again, it depends on individual to individual basis, Charan. Most often, it is beneficial to have somebody that they are reflecting with. Say, if they do not have a professional coach with them, probably they're doing it with their seniors. If somebody is looking at a very laser focused growth and fast, quickly moving up the ladder, so probably they are having somebody within the organization, or somebody they studied with, somebody who's a college senior, somebody whom they resonate with deeply, somebody is, having more exposure, so even they can be a good mentor, so they take the route of mentorship, which is amazing as well.
Wonderful. So my last question related to people wanting to try to go solo. Okay, an extension of the same question on the high performers.
Right.
Uh, I somehow feel these high performers are put on a very what you call a very high visibility, high pedestal,
Right.
that they can't take any blemish on their armor, and they wait too long to ask for help, and it goes from waiting to ask for help, and to a sudden drop in a kind of a burnout or a kind of a
Yeah.
situation. So how often do you see this? That's the part one of this question.
Very
And
often.
how do these people can go about avoiding this so that it doesn't go falling off from a cliff?
Right. Um, to answer your first question, it's very, very often. Most often, when an executive is coming in, they are a little clueless. Anxiety has set in already, because there's just too much in their plate to deal with, and they do not know how to go about it. They do not have the emotional bandwidth or the time bandwidth, so they are like an absolute mess sometimes when they're coming to me. Ideally, it stems from our conditioning that you should take help only when you're weak, right? So because they are already projected so many years to be a peak performer, they somehow have this expectation from themselves that they should always be in a capable position to sort things out themselves, right? So when things are falling apart, when they're actually falling in sick, I have had most of them coming into me when they're falling sick. They're like, hey, you know what I do, I have worked so much to grow this much, and then now things are falling apart, my health is also not um, is supportive. So that's when they come in. But I also feel it comes from, we creating a certain kind of an image for ourselves, that, what, I do all by myself, and I don't think it's a badge of honor for anybody. Smart people do not do everything by themselves. They delegate it beautifully, right? Sometimes you do not have to be a professional, no matter what hierarchy you are in, where you're burnt out to the point that you're not able to think. You do not have to punish yourself for safeguarding the name, right? And also, I think India is a country where education has already always been like the heart of our, of, in a family systems, the parents have money or not, they have always focused on the education, because education gives them a launch pad, right? But in spite of that, I think we're still not very open to get educated. That's a very surprising thing that I have been noticing, right? If you're open, doesn't matter from whom the help comes from, and you don't even have to sign up with the coach. When you speak to a responsible coach, even the coach would say, "Hey, you're not really open to get coached," right? So, but be in touch with people to at least reflect, so that you can get convinced that this process is going to take you forward, right? There have been quite a few cases for me where, somebody was in touch with me for a few months. They had quite a few clarifications and doubts, and once that is all clear, then they're like, okay, fine, I think it might work for me. And when people start coming in like that, then we have still had made wonderful progress there as well.
Wonderful. So, I mean, it definitely puts into perspective what you just said. Like, even though we may be experts in solving a lot of problems, but not every problem that needs to be that exists that needs to be solved by us as an
Yeah,
individual itself, right? So, I just want to go into the next aspect of what I wanted to talk to you. I mean, it's an extension of this only. So. Um, I understand that people wanting to get into engaging a coach or having a conversation with the coach, it's a huge decision, both internally preparation, both from a position standpoint, etc., etc. So, would any of these other roles, like a counselor or a mentor or a teacher, whom probably they've had at some point in their lives, not as a tag, but the kind of a role these people have performed, like any of these people in their lives, could they help these wonderful leaders to get to a point where, okay, fine, now I'm very clear about the challenges that I have. Okay, let me start working with a coach who can help me overcome these challenges for the future. So do you feel like in a lot of ways these three other roles could help them get to the point of having a conversation with a coach?
absolutely, absolutely. See, most often we'll have to first understand how far we can help a person, right? When we're stepping in to help a person, I should be very clear till what point can I help them, right? And when the person who's offering the help is having that clarity, and the person who's receiving the help also has the clarity, that, what, yes, the help is happening, the progress is happening, but then I'm hitting a certain plateau. I'm not actually able to go beyond that plateau. That's when you need an external help. Now, the title of that person who's coming and helping can be anything. Maybe a mentor who's an even better mentor, or maybe a better teacher, or a coach, or whatever it is, or just a friend who can ask you like point blank the right questions that you're supposed to ask yourself and answer them, right? So, as a person who's receiving the help, they'll have to know when they're hitting a plateau.
Fantastic, fantastic. So now, a last question on this aspect of it, from getting them from a confusion to a clarity. Um, how much do you see that people need to be made aware of a coach is not a person who is just an advice giver, but it basically is a growth partner for your in your journey? So how much is that clarity available, and how much is it needed even today?
Most often I end up explaining a lot about what coaching is almost in every discovery call that I make. See, one bottom line that all of us as professionals who have to understand is, our belief system has formed from childhood. And we like it or not, no matter how much clarity we have, we carry certain emotional baggages. Doesn't mean that it's hurting or bothering you right now, but then there are so many things that you're carrying, and certain decisions that you're taking right now is based on some archaic old beliefs that formed when you were a child, right? So it becomes very difficult, or at least it takes many years if you start doing that all by yourself. right? So when you're operating with the coach is going to definitely go much deeper into who you are as a person, and they're going to redefine the version that you see is you, right? So you're bringing you as close to your original reality as possible. That's what a coach does, right? So I think if somebody really wants coaching, they just have to be open for that. Are you willing to explore that possibility so that you are much faster, quicker in the decisions that you're taking? And what is blocking you? Are you, moving out of it as quickly as possible?
Fantastic, fantastic. So now I think we are more towards the last stretch of the conversation that we are looking to have today. So I want to just take a pause from my side and want to ask from you, what next are we going to do in our probable the next iteration of our inside out conversations?
You're right. And for all the audience who are watching, me and Charan have been discussing about variety of things in life for the last like 2 years, and I'm really excited that we have started the Inside Out conversations because I see that coaching and personal branding kind of works very hand in hand, right? Sometimes we brand a person, personal branding is done. It is purely dependent on how people are perceiving the person, and when coaching comes in, it is how the person is relating with themselves, right, at a much deeper level. And for a person to grow in their professional life, in their leadership journey, both of it is equally important. So that's why we thought, we will ask each other a lot of things in our expertise, in our domain. So today was more about Charan asking me questions about coaching, and next segment is going to be me asking Charan a lot about personal branding. How does it work? A lot of people are very content being silent performers at work, and then there is this thing in media right now where everybody is creating a louder impact, right? So I'm going to ask Charan a lot of questions on what is important. Is it both, or how can a leader in an organization get benefited in growing with these two? If not, what is the ideal balance? What's the 101 of personal branding? Is where the questions are going to come from, and I'm really excited to throw a lot of questions at Charan. So I'm hoping to see a lot of you join in as well.
I'm actually a little bit nervous because it is always, I firmly believe it is always easy to ask questions rather than to respond to it. So I was pretty happy in having this conversation, playing the part where I ask the question. So I want to do a lot of preparation when we convene again for us to have that conversation about the impact versus the silence aspect of it. And probably that's pretty much it on what we are looking at from this week's or the first episode's conversation on the inside out. So the thought that I want to leave all the people who are listening into this is just this: in your own professional journeys, think about it. Do you need somebody from whom you can learn, or do you need somebody who can heal you for any of the challenges that you are having, or do you need somebody who can guide you, or do you need somebody who can challenge you to unlock more? So the choices are there aplenty. There is a teacher who can do something, there is a mentor who can do something, but there is a coach who can challenge you to unlock more, and that is what is really important if you are looking at growing your career. Thank you so much for joining us today, and it was a pleasure having you on this conversation, Manju. I look forward to convening again, where hopefully you don't put me on as much of a hot seat I put you on today. Thanks a lot again for your time.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much, Charan, for having this conversation. I have always been very excited speaking to you because we have had like fantastic conversation, and Inside Out is one way of we giving people an opportunity to have a sneak peek into our conversations about how to grow as a person inside out. So thank you so
Fantastic.
much.
Have a lovely Sunday, Manju. Bye bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.